And finally, the last thing we need to look at regarding const is what to do to initialize a data member that's declared const. For example, here on slide 31, we're showing an implementation of the employee class where each employee object has an ID number, a name, and a rate. And in this version of the employee class, we've specified that the ID data member is an int const. Why is that? Well, if we think about companies hiring employees, when a company hires an employee, assuming the company has a concept of employee ID numbers at all, those ID numbers will be fixed from the time that the employee arrives at the company until the employee leaves. And in fact, even after the employee leaves the company, it's likely that that employee's ID number will be reserved and not reused for some future employee. So we're going to define the ID number as a const for the same reason that we define other things as consts, so that once its value has been established, we don't accidentally change it at some later time while our program is running. If you have a data member such as ID here for the employee class that is a const, then you are required to use the member initialization list syntax in your constructors to initialize a const. For these other data members that are not const, in particular the name and rate data members of the employee object, it's not strictly necessary to use the member initialization syntax to establish the initial values of those data members. We can simply use assignment in the body of the constructor to say name gets whatever the parameter value is and rate gets whatever the parameter value is. But if ID is a const, then doing assignment is not allowed. You're not permitted to assign a value to a const, period. And consequently, the only way that you can establish the initial value for a const member is to use the member initialization syntax. We've been using the member initialization syntax quite a bit already. It's a good idea for the clarity of your code to either use the member initialization syntax or use assignments and not create a mixture of the two. And here, where we're talking about initializing a data member that's const, we see that only one of these mechanisms will work. So it's good to standardize on just using member initialization list notation all the time for initializing the data members of a class, unless there's some technical reason why you can't do that. Okay, so that is 5 uses of const in C++ code, 2 of which we already knew about, and 3 of which we've introduced here.